You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
So today's Training Thursday, what I want to do is I want to make sure that when you are exercising or you're going out for a jog, a run, a spin class, whatever it might be, that you understand the absolute best ways to not only maximize that workout, but to prevent you from getting injured. Because the biggest thing that I say, and I learned this from actually many greats before me, one of them being Mike Boyle, when he used to teach the Olympic hockey team for like the women's team that he coached, or the BU men's hockey team, or any of these teams in general that he worked with, or great athletes, was this. And this is way back. I was probably like 21 years old. And he said that my biggest job is not to make my athletes bigger, stronger, or faster, and I'm ad-libbing, of course, but is to keep them from getting injured. And it didn't really make sense at first because I'm like, well, why wouldn't you want them to perform at a higher level? But the bottom line is that so many athletes get injured, and when they get injured, they're out of the game. And when they're out of the game, it doesn't really matter. There's no contracts after that. They're literally, their lifespan as an athlete is so short as it is, especially in football and a lot of times in hockey as well, that one injury can just, whoop, that's it. You know, the next man up, and the next man up might outperform you. So you have to make sure that in this very competitive arena, you keep your body totally injury-free and safe. But now we can extrapolate that same information and apply it to everyday real-world exercise. And luckily, I've been in this health and fitness industry for so long, I've just gotten to see how things play out. I really get to see, that's the thing, there's a huge difference between going to school, which is important, don't get me wrong, getting your degree, getting certifications, getting licensure, getting all of those things are very important. So I don't want to, because I know there's probably a third of our listeners are all registered dietitians and MDs and acupuncturists and chiropractors and NDs and everyone like that. So all of that is important. I'm not saying that, but that's your basis. Like that's where you're starting from. After that is just so important to get real world application, because just like in music, like you can't learn to play the piano or a saxophone from reading the textbook, and you can't learn exercise from an actual manual. You can't learn to practice functional medicine from a manual either. You need to get out there. You need to intern with people like I did when I was with Mike Boyle way back in the day. I spent my time, I gave my time basically up. You know, I wasn't being paid for this or something like that. I just wanted to see how other coaches out there did their thing. And for me, I got over a dozen different certifications in yoga and all sorts of different things, just so I could learn from the masters, you know, the best of the best, and see how they did it. And then I studied with other masters and they did it a little differently. And I just then had to say, no one person has to be right. What can I take from all this information? What seems to overlap? And that's what I look for. So when I'm talking about this today is it best for you to stretch before or after you exercise? And how just in general, is it best to stay injury-free and get warmed up, get maximum results? So I don't know the best title for this show, but basically I want to keep you injury-free, tell you when it's best to stretch, or even if you need it at all. So here's what I found, you know, coming from someone who's been doing this a little while, seeing people stretch beforehand, afterwards, and then also looking at the research. So there's fairly new research. I mean, there's a lot of research on exercise, of course, in general. American College of Sports Medicine does a lot of this great research. But this particular study was done out of the University of Sydney by a couple researchers, both PhDs, Robert Herbert and Marcos Di Norona. And what they found was they looked at 10 previously studies on stretching and what they looked at before or after athletic performance. So what they found was that stretching before did not help with injuries, nor did it help with post-exercise soreness. So, and I found that in my own practice as well, meaning that if you're cold, so here's why I want to say if this makes sense or not. Think about this. When you first wake up in the morning or you just kind of get out of your job and you're moving over to the gym and looking to get into your workout, if you stretch right away, your body's cold. And when it's cold, it's the most constricted. And that constriction leads to tightness. Think of your muscles as this. Your muscles are like Play-Doh or plastic. When they're cold or hard as a rock, it's going to be harder to mold those muscles to make them a little bit more pliable. But once you start to heat up that plastic, or once you start to heat up that mold, it becomes much more flexible. So right now, what they're finding in research, and again, I don't honestly, a lot of the times, I don't even care as much about the research, because what I do care about is real world results. So yes, I care about the research, of course. I'm not trying to downplay that. But the research really is written in textbooks 10 years after those people who are doing it are doing it. So what we see in our practice, and what, again, many of my colleagues see, and I have the privilege of working with a lot of great people, is that what you need to do is get the body warmed up. So even a lot of people, when they first wake up in the morning, their back is stiff, their hamstrings are stiff. Don't try to stretch right away. What I recommend is taking a nice warm or hot shower. That's going to get the blood flowing. That's going to start to warm up the body, the temperature. After that, you can actually then begin to safely do more of those stretches that you want to, especially like your cat and cow or your extended child's pose or an up and down dog. Those are all great poses to basically get that body moving, and those are some of my favorites. Hip swings are, again, some of my favorites, just to get that nervous system also loosened up as well. So I want to share with you, I don't want to make this a long episode because it doesn't need to be. Here's exactly what we do. So we do 45-minute workout programs inside of our practice. We have our weight loss body transformation center, and then we have our wellness center in Boston. Both of them have personal training studios. And in those studios, we work with thousands of clients. And so what we're doing is we're helping them get the most out of that workout. So for the first 5 minutes of that workout, we're doing what's called a dynamic warm-up. So now a dynamic warm-up has been proven scientifically to help in injury prevention and to then make your body more receptive to stretching. So all you're doing in your dynamic warm-up, now remember, dynamic warm-up, a specific warm-up is different than just getting on a treadmill for 5 minutes, a bike for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever it be. That's called a general warm-up. In our specific warm-up, what we're doing are things like lateral lunges, that's side-to-side lunges. We might be doing a transverse plane lunge. That's a lunge in a rotational direction. We might be doing hand walkouts. We might be doing a plank. We're doing things to basically warm up the muscles, to warm up the stabilizing muscles as well, to get the joints and the ligaments and the tendons to get a little bit more blood flow to them. Because remember, oftentimes they're one of the limiting factors in your body's ability to stay injury-free, but also get more flexible because they get less blood flow in general. So we have to be careful because if we stretch too fast while cold, that is how injuries actually happen from stretching, because what's happened is these things called the Golgi tendon organs, and there's other factors as well. But those lock up, and they're supposed to. They're supposed to prevent you from stretching any deeper into that particular pose. But what happens is sometimes they get overloaded. We push past that, and we can get muscle tears, tendon, ligament-based tears as well. So what we do is we do a nice dynamic warm-up, and that's how we get started. After that, we might do some foam rolling. Foam rolling could be with a mile ball, one of those small, like 6 inches balls that you can use in your hips, which is fantastic. We might use a peanut or 2 tennis balls taped together, and they make all sorts of devices now for the mid-back, or what's called the thoracic part of the spine, to loosen up your back if it's tight. We might use a full foam roller for the IT bands from your quads, again, into the hips as well. So what I'll try to do is link up some of those devices today. They're very inexpensive, and everyone should have a foam roller, and if not, a mile ball as well. Simple to travel with too. Those are some of my favorites. Really loosen you up, especially after a plane flight. You can also just bring a tennis ball to loosen up with, but the problem is if you've never done foam rolling before and you get right on a tennis ball, it hurts. I mean, you're going to feel it. Eventually it won't be an issue, but you have to warm up to that and actually do a couple weeks of foam rolling before I think you can get right to that, because if there's too much pain, your body will tense up. So that's really, really important. Okay, so we did a dynamic warm up for about 5 minutes of body weight exercises that are going to help us in our workout. So a lot of times we match those warm-ups to our workout. I've talked about dynamic warm-ups in the past. Maybe I'll give you some examples, and I'll definitely do that in the next couple coming weeks on the Training Thursday shows. But after we do that warm-up, we'll also do, again, some foam rolling if needed, meaning like if a client is not going to be able to best perform their exercises because they're very stiff and they're at chance of injury, well, we'll get them loosened up even more. If not, we'll do the foam rolling. We'll save that for their home so they don't have to take part of their time to do that. Okay. Now, at this point, their body is warmed up. And if they need to stretch something in particular, whether it be their hamstrings, if a client's at risk for lower back injury, because again, those hamstrings are so tight, they're pulling their body into some type of posterior pelvic tilt or anterior pelvic tilt with tight hip flexors, whatever it might be. We'll work on that, okay? And we'll stretch those hip flexors or hamstrings or calves if needed, okay? If not, we just get right into the workout. And each set, the beginning of each exercise, I always start with one set, which is just a specific warm-up for that workout. So if it's a chest press, then we're going to do a warm-up set for the chest press. And if it's a squat, we're going to do a warm-up set for the squat so that their nervous system now is primed, but also they're stretching with a lighter weight in a specific motion that they will then need to do for heavier sets for that exercise. So hopefully this is starting to make sense. And again, a good spin instructor, a good class instructor will get you warmed up in these specific ways as well. They just won't go 0 to 100, right within the first 5 minutes. They'll warm you up. And then, so when does it make sense to stretch? Well, if you're a runner, you might stop after 5 or 10 or 15 minutes, and you might get a little stretch, and then when your body's already warmed up, if needed. You might not need to. But really the best time to stretch, when you're going to get the most out of it, is when you are most warmed up or basically completed your workout. So at that point, you can then stretch as much as you'd like. Now, there's all sorts of different research, PNF-based stretching, assisted stretching. What you want to do is you want to complete some static stretches just in the beginning. That's anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds. It could be longer, but 30 to 90 seconds of where you're in one pose and you're working on breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, trying to relax in your nervous system. Too often we focus on just trying to just stretch that muscle with everything we have. The problem is we lose track and sight of that oftentimes all tightness or most tightness is neurological. And that means our nervous system over time has kind of locked up these muscles. So by breathing, we relax the entire nervous system. It was so pronounced when I first learned this a bunch of years back that I didn't stretch that much, but my body became more flexible. And the reason was I just basically controlled my breathing. I stopped doing chest breathing all the time. And again, this is a topic for another show, but all that chest breathing, holding my shoulders up and holding everything so tense, it tensed up my entire body. So when I learned to relax my shoulders, I learned to breathe into my belly, everything became more relaxed and I became more flexible. And that was obviously nice because I didn't need to stretch all the time. So my recommendation is this: do not stretch when cold. Do not stretch at the beginning of your workout. Do some dynamic warm-up bodyweight exercises just within your range of motion. Do some foam rolling after that. Now your body's warm. You can do that stretching as needed or wait until the end of the workout to do it. Most people are not going to stretch between exercises and a weight workout only because there has been some studies that have shown that if you stretch between sets, it actually starts to short-circuit the neural pathways that allow your brain down that spinal cord to then innervate all of those muscles and tell it what to do to become lessened. So basically what happens is you just kind of short circuit your brain to muscles, your mind-body connection, and it kind of forgets that pathway as much. So for example, if you were doing a chest press again, and then after that set or so, you went and did a doorway stretch for 30 to 60 seconds to help open up your chest. If you did that, you might not be as strong that next set, meaning like able to then bounce up more in weight because you just short-circuited those pathways. Again, that's probably another show's topic, but what I want to leave you with today is best way to stay injury-free. Dynamic warm-up to get started. Very light, just some lunges, some body weight, some hand walkouts, some planks, some boat poses, some overhead squats, anything to get that body warmed up. Then some foam rolling, some self-myofascial release if you want. Then you're stretching if you choose to. If not, you're going to do your stretching at the end of a workout. Or if it's an off day, just make sure that you're warmed up fully and that you are good to go. So hopefully today's show helped. I do really appreciate you tuning in. And as always, if this information could help out anyone else, please do feel free to pass it along to them. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice After seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.